Frank Luntz, the pollster extraordinaire. Frank, your take on last night. I thought it was a very interesting set of results. Obviously, overall, a good night for the Democrats, but pulling in two very, very different directions. Moderate and then the socialist in New York.
The race, to me, that was by far the most important, didn't even feature a candidate. It was the ballot initiative in California, which some of your audience won't know much about, but that's going to allow the Democrats to completely rewrite the borders, the districts, the lines that will determine which voters vote in which areas. And that's going to give the Democrats 5 or maybe even 6 additional House seats. Now, Republicans had done it before in Texas. Democrats had a really bright, smart usage of language on the ballot to help them win that race, but it wasn't even close. And Piers, that shift may well determine who controls Congress in 2026, and that's going to change history as we know it. That was the most significant race. I know it doesn't get the kind of yelling or kind of passion that the New York mayoral race does, but I'm telling you that the California voters have absolutely changed, have uprooted what was going to happen in America, and that's going to be the big story that we're going to be talking about for months and even for years.
Yeah, really, really interesting. And I don't disagree with you at all. It's a seismic thing that happened in California. But on the point about the direction of the Democrat Party, Mamdani is now the standout superstar of the party. And he's come from nowhere. And he's like this incredibly charismatic. I watched his speech last night. He's taking it to Trump and so on. You know, I can see a lot of young Democrats in particular cheering him on, thinking this is great. But his politics are very, very different, for example, to somebody like Abigail Spanberger, who won in Virginia. Which way is the party going to go? Which is more electable? Can you win a general election in America, do you think, if you are a self-declared socialist?
Absolutely not. And the party is going in both directions. And the progressives had a great win yesterday, and a significant win. And they finally have a spokesman who's incredibly articulate and powerful. And that helps the Bernie Sanders AOC wing of the party. The one who's probably most upset this morning is Chuck Schumer, because his Democratic Party is disappearing. On the Republican side, the party is no longer the party of Ronald Reagan. It's all about Donald Trump and his accolades. Both parties are moving in those directions away from the center. And in the end, there are going to be more and more Americans who look at both Republicans and Democrats and say, I can't vote for any of you. But Piers, you know, I've been on this now for several years. I think the loser last night isn't the Republican Party. It's actually the American people. Because I see both parties rejecting the center, both parties rejecting a common sense approach and moving in these ideological directions. That does fire people up. That does excite younger people and excite people on the fringes. But in the end, there's so many Americans who believe that our democracy is not working anymore, as they do in the UK. And they believe that they're looking for someone with common sense, someone who is a centrist. And this is not necessarily where I stand. This is where the American people stand. And they don't see anyone who's speaking for them.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, do you see anybody on the horizon for the Democrats, for example, that would fit that bill? A new Bill Clinton-y figure?
Absolutely. Cory Booker, the senator from New Jersey. Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland. Mitch Landrieu, the former mayor of New Orleans. These are people who focus on getting stuff done. Booker was formerly the mayor of Newark, turned that city around. And they have a record of accomplishment, a record of results, which is what the American people are looking for. And they practice accountability in what they do. They're not focused on Washington. They're not ideological. They would not come on this show and yell at each other. They would come to listen, learn, and lead. 3 Democrats that can make a difference. I'm going to repeat this so people check them out. Go on to YouTube to see their speeches. Go to Wikipedia to see their backgrounds. Cory Booker, New Jersey. Wes Moore, Maryland. And Mitch Landrieu, Louisiana. Incredible leaders, focused on results. And I know I sound like a Democrat, but I know that's what the American people are looking for right now.
Putting your predictive hat on, take me forward to the midterms and then the general election. So 2026 first, then 2028. As things stand, what do you think is going to happen in both?
I've studied this. I know what history says, and history says the Democrats are going to win the House races, maybe not the Senate, because it's the majority is too much in favor of the Republicans. But after last night in California voting the way that it did, if I were a betting man, I'd bet on the Democrats winning the House very narrowly, Republicans keeping the Senate very narrowly, and the country once again going at each other. And we're going to have the most amazing election in 2028. If you were entertained by 2020 and a little bit scared about 2024, 2028 is going to be like The Godfather 2. It's going to be even better than what we saw in terms of competitiveness. My concern is whether or not it's better in terms of bringing voters back in, having them have faith, trust, and confidence in the American political system. Because in the end, Piers, ratings don't matter. I know they do for you. They don't matter for America. Money doesn't matter. Happiness matters. Success matters. Trust and confidence in the system of government. Our patriotism matters, and our country matters. And I'm hoping that we will put people, truly, not a slogan, put people above politics in the years to come.
And Frank, finally, do you expect Donald Trump to try and change the rules so he can run again in 2028, or is he just trolling the libs, as he would put it?
I fully expect him to talk about it. I fully expect him not to do it. It is so clear what needs to be done, and there isn't enough time to get it done, but he wants to stay relevant. And I know that you and I have had these conversations now for about 10, 15 years. I know I sound different than what I used to, but we're in a different situation than what we used to be in. And I would hope that the president would acknowledge that things are very difficult for a lot of people, that they're challenged. The Democrat on your show who talked about affordability, and Piers, that's your message. That is absolutely correct. If you can't afford your home, you can't afford your health care, if you can't even afford your fuel or your food, you're in trouble. And we need these people working together for all of us so that this affordability is addressed, this confidence is restored, and in the end, we have the country and the system that we deserve.
Frank Luntz, brilliant to have you on after such a big night for American politics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Piers. I appreciate it.